Many businesses resumed operations in May, fueling hopes for a quick rebound. But a resurgence of COVID-19 cases, especially in the densely populated South and West, are tempering hopes for quick economic recovery. Jobless claims numbers released Thursday reinforced the theme of a stalling recovery. It showed another 1.43 million American workers filed for unemployment last week. This number is up for the second week in a row after falling steadily from its March peak of nearly 7 million. The Federal Reserve acknowledged the spike in cases was likely stalling recovery, while pledging to support the economy as long as necessary.
I asked Daniel Lacalle what this might mean for the country over the next 12 months. Daniel, great to see you as always. Considering the GDP figures that we got today, and also considering we kind of know what the Fed is planning, we kind of have an idea of what the government might be planning. How do you think things will look over the next 12 months, say, for particularly business owners and households?
It is certainly a very, very difficult environment. The second quarter GDP fall was larger than I expected. And especially if we look, for example, at the jobless claims and continuing jobless claims, those two figures are stubbornly high for a recovery. So I think that although the third quarter GDP is going to be very strong and it's likely to grow about 18%, which is positive, it is still not enough to offset the slump of the second quarter. Therefore, what I think that we're going to see is that jobless claims are going to continue to be too high, that businesses are going to have to adapt to a much slower recovery, and that it's very difficult to see that we will see an important improvement in capital expenditure or a drastic growth in consumption, particularly as the subsidies provided to the people in unemployment start to come out of the picture. So we have to be prudent about the third quarter. The recovery is definitely there, but it's slower than what many of us anticipated.
And we always focus on what the government can do here, what the government can do there. Say from a regular business perspective, how should they be facing the next, say, 12 months?
Yes, businesses face a tough environment. Therefore, what they need to do is actually what they have been doing predominantly in order to survive. Preserve cash, be very, very prudent about capital expenditure, about expansion plans, invest in e-commerce, invest in everything that has to do with digitalization, with reaching customers globally. There is a growing business for those companies that are actually improving their exposure to the global environment, to the global consumer, while at the same time maintaining a strong local presence. So this duality about becoming more global and at the same time maintaining this local flavor is very important in order to attract these different and new customers. Think about value added. Don't think about volumes. Many of the companies that I've been speaking with are worried about the volumes of sales. However, if they concentrate on value added, what they can achieve is better margins and actually a decent level of profits, even with sales that remain relatively weak.
Daniel, I appreciate your update as always. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
We've all seen videos of the vandalism in Portland. One of the small businesses there, Huber's Restaurant, is over 130 years old. James Louis' family has been involved in the business since 1881 when Jim Huber hired a Chinese immigrant to do the cooking. Now, James isn't sure that the restaurant will survive after 60 days of violent riots and 6 months of lockdowns. We spoke with him earlier. So James, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Paul.
What a year for you guys in Portland, James, I can only imagine. Maybe you can give us some insight how it's been for you.
Well, the combination of COVID-19 and the Black Lives Matter protests have really done a number on business. I mean, our sales are down dramatically. It's the slowest I've seen it in several years.
And how have the protests in particular affected both the consumers and the business people in Portland?
Well, people are afraid to come downtown because they don't want to get caught up in a protest march. Also, they don't want their vehicle vandalized. And so much of the protests have been on the violent side that, like I say, people are concerned about their personal property. The shop owners, you know, we have still a lot of stores with boarded up windows, graffiti on the walls, and it almost looks like a ghetto. It does look like a ghetto, and it's sad to see downtown Portland the way it is.
And most of the footage that we see shows people out at night rioting, these types of things. Is it just at night that this is affecting you? Can the stores operate during the day?
Well, during the day, yeah, stores are open. Some stores, not all stores. Some stores are going to wait till the COVID-19 pandemic gets over with, and also they're going to wait till the demonstrations get over with before they reopen, because they don't want to see their shops vandalized and looted again. But yeah, during the day, downtown Portland's like a ghost town. Then at night, especially once we get close to midnight, that's when the violent protesters start doing their thing.
And is there anybody you've been able to turn to, anybody who's offered assistance, any assistance that the business owners locally would like?
Well, we've been corresponding with the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, and also the Portland Business Alliance, and you know they do what they can, but our civic leaders, they seem to not want to come down too heavy on the protesters, because one of the issues is police brutality, and they don't want to create more incidents. But on the other hand, what some of the protesters are doing, the damage to the Justice Center, the damage to the federal courthouse, it's totally uncalled for and does not enhance the Black Lives Matter movement at all.
And we've seen a lot of the footage around the courthouse. Has there been any damage caused to businesses like yourself or your friends or your peers in the local business community?
Well, yeah, as far as Huber's is concerned, we were proactive and we put up plywood on our windows the second day of the protests. But other businesses in the downtown area were vandalized and looted and damaged heavily, and like I said, in some cases, we kind of feel that it was just they were using Black Lives Matter movement as an excuse to steal and to be able to get away with it.
Yeah, this is an accusation that we've seen leveled at a lot of these, we could call them vandals, rioters, that they're usurping this movement, or they're kind of taking advantage of kind of I think the goodness in people's hearts and causing as you mentioned, very uncalled for damage. It's very, as myself, as a kind of person who grew up in a small business, it's very heartbreaking to see it. As I mentioned, it's difficult to survive in the best of times. Come from a virus to this vandalism and riots is just impossible. So, James, I really appreciate you taking the time, and we wish you all the best. We'll catch up with you again afterwards.
Thank you, Paul. It was my pleasure.
The Trump administration is working on a new initiative to encourage U.S. firms to move production out of Asia and into the United States and Latin America. President Trump's advisor in Latin America says the project could bring in $30 to $50 billion of U.S. investment back to the Americas. The official making the announcement didn't get into specifics, but he did mention the U.S. government's nearly $800 million loan to Kodak as an example. The historic company will use the loan to start producing ingredients for generic drugs right here in the United States. Emel Akan's been following Kodak's story. So Emel, thanks for coming on. Do you think that this is the Trump administration's first move to reduce their supply chain reliance on China?
Yes, Paul, this is a crucial step. The Trump administration took a very crucial step this week to bring manufacturing back to the United States. Kodak, which is a mighty camera company, once mighty camera company, it will be transformed to produce will be transformed to be a pharma company to produce essential drugs in the United States. The company received government loans, a $765 million loans to produce so-called active pharma ingredients, APIs, for generic drugs. Now, generic drug is the copy of the original drug, and when the patent expires, generic drugs can be produced. And since this requires cheap labor, it's outsourced to other countries. And so this is a crucial step, and many people think this is a creative deal as well, because the President Trump used the DPA, Defense Production Act, to provide this loan to Kodak. And so this is a first step to bring back the manufacturing.
And mostly for myself, Kodak was the type of disposable cameras I used to buy when I was younger. I didn't realize they also did medicine.
Yes, I actually talked to an operations professor from Harvard University, Harvard Business School, Willie Shea. He is the author of the book Producing Prosperity, and he actually talks about Kodak in his book, and he has experience with Kodak. He told me that Kodak's basically raw materials, which is the chemicals that they use in filmmaking, are actually the ingredients that they use in the pharma company. So they have this chemistry, strong chemistry. So it's very natural for Kodak to be able to produce these APIs. And Kodak, as you know, was a bankrupt company, declared bankruptcy in 2012. And just want to give you some background. It was a great manufacturer of, it was a pioneer in photography. But because of outsourcing, which is the same problem that we face in other industries, it actually lagged behind in innovation and technology, according to Professor Shih. And so basically it lost its competitive strength over the years. And after years of struggling, the company went bankrupt in 2012. The company's plant in Rochester, which is a massive industrial plant, and it will be hiring 300 people to start producing these active ingredients for generic drugs. It's a big win for America, big win for New York, and for manufacturing. And actually, Governor Cuomo of New York also praised the deal, and he said that we should reduce reliance on China and India for medicines.
I hadn't realized Kodak had gone bankrupt. Maybe these Robin Hood traders investing in the bankrupt companies might be onto something. Emel, thanks so much for your update. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Most of Wall Street stumbled Thursday, but another rise for big technology stocks helped keep the market's losses in check. Amazon posted its biggest profit in its 26-year history, Facebook beat estimates for quarterly revenue, and Google parent Alphabet also topped quarterly sales estimates. The Dow lost 226 points or 0.85%, the S&P 500 dropped 12 points or 0.38%, and The Nasdaq climbed about 45 points, or 0.43%. And in some unwelcome news, Americans owe billions of dollars in past due rent, and the government has yet to reinstate the federal eviction ban. Now, experts are worrying that it could create a homelessness crisis.
Americans owe more than $21.5 billion in past due rent. The government has not reinstated the federal eviction ban yet, and the enhanced $600 weekly federal unemployment benefits are set to end on Friday. It's not clear if a new eviction ban is on the way. Over the spring and early summer, unemployment reached levels unseen since the aftermath of the 1930s Great Depression. A patchwork of federal, state, and local eviction bans kept renters in their homes. In July, 21% of renters paid no rent. Eviction courts nationwide are busy again as Congress works on the next aid package. A tracker estimates 17.3 million out of 44 million U.S. renter households risk eviction. On Friday, the eviction ban lapsed. It had covered the third of renters in buildings backed by mortgages from the federal government. An attorney at the Public Justice Center says without a solution soon, the likely result will be a staggering surge in homelessness.
And still to come, online shopping growth boosted UPS's revenue. Its second quarter profits beat expectations. And the European Union will launch an antitrust investigation into Google's bid to buy Fitbit. Find out more after the break. The boom in online shopping during the pandemic pushed revenue higher at UPS. Its second quarter profits are up 5% from a year ago. It's far exceeding expectations. People are ordering more of everything from face masks and medical equipment to food and furniture. Amazon drove much of the growth. It's UPS's largest customer, but more deliveries to households and less to businesses is not ideal for the company. Those deliveries aren't as profitable because they take more miles to complete. UPS is now responding by raising prices on bulky shipments and on some retailers whose volumes have increased quite a lot. Company shares are up 14% today. And Dunkin is permanently closing about 800 locations in the U.S. That's 8% of its restaurants. The company says second quarter revenues fell by 20%. The company detailed the changes in its quarterly earnings report Thursday. It described the closures as, quote, real estate portfolio rationalizations. It's a real mouthful. It said the locations have low sales volume and represent only 2% of the U.S. sales last year. More than half of the closures are in Speedway convenience stores, a change Dunkin previously announced in February. The company also said that it may permanently close about 350 locations outside of the U.S. And the European Union is set to open an antitrust investigation into Google's $2 billion bid to buy Fitbit. Privacy advocates are concerned Google's could use Fitbit's trove of health data to boost its dominance in online advertising. Earlier this month, Google offered not to use Fitbit data to target ads.
According to sources close to the matter, EU antitrust regulators are set to open a full-scale investigation into Google's proposed acquisition of Fitbit. Acquiring the fitness tracker company would give Google access to intimate information about users, like how many steps they take daily, the quality of their sleep, and their heart rates. Earlier this month, 20 advocacy groups from the US, Europe, Latin America, and elsewhere signed a statement urging regulators to be wary of the transaction. The group cited concerns over privacy and competition. Google recently said in a statement that this deal is about devices, not data. It said it would work with the European Commission while acknowledging consumer concerns over Fitbit device data being used for advertising. Many saw Google's statement as a way to appease the regulators and an attempt to avoid the investigation. Currently, Fitbit only accounts for about 3% of the global wearables market, according to data from market research firm International Data Corp. That's trailing behind Apple, Xiaomi, Samsung, and Huawei. Apple own a third of the total market share in this area. The 4-month-long investigation will start after the European Commission's review on August 4th.
And still to come, Chinese banks and authorities are trying to dampen a recent gold rush. There are concerns it could lead to another trading disaster. And luxury brand Hermes says its sales dropped over 40% in the second quarter. Find out more after the break.
He ascended to the throne during the most turbulent times in the Joseon dynasty. Despite that, he treated his people well, had great ambitions, and led the country towards a new renaissance. That eventually earned him the title as one of the wisest kings in Korean history. Lee's son on NTD America.
China's banks and regulators are banning citizens from investing and trading in precious metals. Investors are flocking to safe haven assets while authorities try to stop another potential trading disaster.
The push to limit risk comes as gold prices hit record highs, sparked by Chinese investors hunting for safe haven assets over concerns of rising CCP virus cases, high equity valuations, and a falling U.S. dollar. Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, ICBC, China's biggest lender, says it's barring clients from opening new accounts for trading precious metals. Agricultural Bank of China says it's suspended new businesses related to gold, while the Bank of China says it's freezing new account openings for platinum and palladium trading. Asia's largest gold exchange-traded fund saw its assets under management skyrocket more than 68% to almost $1.7 billion this year. In April, investors were caught off guard when Bank of China settled a crude oil futures trading product. Oil futures collapsed into negative territory. Thousands of Chinese investors lost their investment and some even owed the bank tens of thousands of dollars. A wealth management analyst in Shanghai warns any further gains in gold could spur more speculation despite regulatory attempts to tamp it down.
Iconic luxury brand Hermes is definitely feeling the impact of the lockdowns. The company says sales dropped 42% in the 3 months through June. Hermes tends to be the industry's hardiest player in times of crisis because of its leather goods. Demand for the brand has long outpaced supply. Rivals Prada and Louis Vuitton were also hit by plunging demand. The pandemic forced stores to close and kept shoppers at home. Looking ahead, a Bloomberg analyst says a number of factors point to a recovery for the brand, including exclusive price points, waiting lists on some designs, and limited supply. That's the latest business updates for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.